Haunted Forest is actually kind of top tier in terms of rewards, especially in relation to the time it takes to complete it. But usually, most lobbies you see will end in failure, unless the team is super stacked with 4 players being high infamy, like Infamy 10. But if you played with a team that's below Infamy 1, you know it usually doesn't end well. So how the hell am I able to do this?
That cop was well. His past life, that cop you eliminated. Well, he double parked when he did not need to. Move quickly, my henchmen. Must escape before the moon retreats. Get in.
Well, I'll definitely talk about that later in the video, but for now, I'm going to pander to the general Notoriety community for a bit and talk about how to make a viable armor loadout for Haunted Forests.
Oh good, you're finally here.
Hello and welcome to your viewers. This is a video that's going to talk ad nauseum about Haunted Forest and the loadouts you can use to actually win this map. Now if you look at the length of the video, you might have noticed that it's a very fucking long, but that's mostly because I actually spend most of the video trying to find the least amount of skill points required to be able to beat Haunted Forest, and that's why I've titled each video chapter appropriately. Well, that's enough time spent on exposition. Let's start with playstyle that people typically consider the best for loud. It's definitely way more common to see someone rocking the heaviest armor they can use during any loud mission, and that's why this segment exists and will be the first thing I talk about. So first off, in general, if you're going to play armor build, you should place utmost importance in keeping your team alive. Your damage output isn't going to be that great, so prioritize reviving your team and clearing out the gravestone area. This is the skills that I chose. I'll only say the major skills that are the most important, but keep in mind that any skill preset that I present is always privy to personal customization to fit your playstyle and perfect your performance. Alright, so in Mastermind there's Inspire Ace, Lifeguard Ace, Leader Ace, Morale Ace, and Pistol Messiah Ace. In Enforcer is Tank, Fully Loaded Ace, Fighter Ace, and Bullseye Ace. In Technician there's Body Expertise Ace, Focus, Surefire Ace. And lastly on Ghost there's Parkour and Pigeon Carrier. Now you might have noticed that there's a lot of major skills on Mastermind, and it's because armor builds give a lot more value through self-preservation and support. Having 2 lives is way more valuable for tank builds that can eat damage, and since their firepower is stunted, it's less devastating to have times where you revive people instead of continuing to shoot at enemies. For guns, I'd recommend MK46. RPK has a better DPS and reload, but MK46 has a big magazine, fully loaded, so you'll have less downtime overall. Oh, and Type 7 for Pistol Messiah. And so will be your gadget. The equipment will be medkit. There is the option for sentries, but they siphon a lot of skill points for themselves, and their damage doesn't seem to be that great, so they just end up being damage sponges. Okay, so I just got back from testing sentries, and they seriously aren't that good. I ran solo no AI for both the standard armor build and a sentry build. The sentry build did not survive for long. Sentries don't have much DPS, and they don't seem to attract enemy bullets that well either. Now of course you're probably going to be running public lobbies, so you might wonder why I'm comparing sentries using solo no AI. But it does show that the impact of sentries is not good enough compared to having a medkit which lets you activate Pistol Messiah as many times as you need, and with Lifeguard Ace, that gives you more than enough armor to refill your Pistol Messiah Ace again. There's also Morale, so you don't have to use the Medkit charge. As for mines, just don't bother. They can't kill a ghost in one explosion, or even dozers for that matter. So yeah, and the fire does 160 DPS as far as I can tell.
Back in 87.
For gameplay, you're gonna wanna stick around the gravestone. There's only 2 spots where the cops drop in this area, so make sure to routinely clean them off using saw so they don't overwhelm you. Saws have great DPS with Spider Ace, it's very effective for ghosts. Of course, make sure to prune the ones coming from the front as well. Ideally, they will all be in a straight line for Surefire Ace, but just try to maximize the use of Surefire Ace. You should really clear out gravestones so your team can easily hunker down, so make that a priority. Just keep shooting everything and aim for the head. Don't bother trying to partially cover up because the bots have perfect accuracy anyway, at least in this scenario, and just rely on Bullseye to keep you alive. If you do get downed though, do not activate Pistol Messiah as soon as you can. You should stay down and keep shooting at any enemy you can see, but make sure to keep one cop that's near you alive. And when 10 seconds are left, or fewer, activate Pistol Messiah. If you do this, then you'll be able to shoot enemy cops without worrying about them shooting you, since you're already downed anyway. Because you can basically become invincible for 20 seconds, if you ever get close to being down, make sure to run into a good position to shoot enemies before you go down. Dozers are a bit of an issue, but if they're far away, don't bother. If they come at you, saw them up. You should actually prioritize them if they're near you, because your saw does insane damage, so the team won't have to spend 5 seconds or more just shooting at this one unit. Now this is a lot of skill points used. It's basically for max infamy and max level only, so we'll start pruning skills for each tree until we get the bare minimum. First off, on ghosts, we'll just remove everything. They're really helpful since they're the difference between your sprint being the suit's walking speed and you being no better than a tree prop, but we're going minimal here, and this is quite the minimal benefit. You can handle being a tree prop, it's fine. Minus 16 skill points needed. Next up is Technician. Body expertise is pretty useful, especially for those cops just standing on the ledges and not coming down, plus RPGs and snipers. It's especially useful that it helps with the RPGs because they can chunk the hell out of you really easily since you're slow as hell, but you end up getting used to perks to unlock it. Focus is nice, but you don't need it too much. Surefire Ace is completely necessary though, like, I'm serious. Don't skip out on this one or you're fucked. On Enforcer, tank can be removed, even though it's really useful since Bullseye Ace just doesn't make you invincible like before. Remember the days when it gave you 300 armor with no cooldown? Yeah, before you could just easily survive Haunted Forest using this one perk, but now you actually have to experiment with your loadouts to survive. Or just watch this video. But anyway, the extra health is nice, so you don't get down so much, but it's still optional. You can also take away fully loaded Ace because you'll be making use of 2 weapons here without incurring a DPS penalty from using a secondary. Plus, Rampage can be removed since you won't be activating it that much, and Armor gives you enough time to laser down the clumps of cops coming quickly. Minus 29 skill points overall. Oh boy, here's the big one. If you remove everything in the Mastermind except for Medic Ace, you get to save 56 skill points. Count all of that. That's kinda crazy, but they're super useful in keeping your team alive, especially since you'll be bringing medkits too. The biggest loss, however, is actually Fisto Messiah and Lifeguard Ace, because these insurances are more focused towards you, who's the single biggest anchor of consistency compared to your teammates who will always be random. That was probably complicated, so in simple terms, you can always rely on yourself to do something, but your teammates are way more unreliable. So one last thing, you could actually remove Medic Ace, but like, you're tank dog, man. I don't know, it's just kind of embarrassing to know that you have the greatest capacity to support your team and revive people, but you don't have Medic Ace. Aside from that, it is literally the fundamental skill to get in loud while playing with other players, because my guy, it is 3 skill points. It's a first tier skill and easily noticeable if you don't have it. Right. Overall, with the most minimal build, you only need to spend 47 skill points. Pretty low, I'd say, especially since this is haunted forest we're talking about. As you get more skill points, or have more, the priority of acquiring skills generally goes as Mastermind, Ghost, Enforcer, then Technician. Prioritize self-sustaining skills like Morale and Lifeguard, and you'll be good to go. Alright, on to the more flashy and impactful loadout, the fireworks loadout. The main core of this loadout will be Fireworks Ace, Ammo Specialist Ace, Extra Ammunition Ace, Bullseye, Rampage Ace, and Surefire Ace. In total, it takes 59 points for this bare minimum setup, which also includes Pack Animal Ace and Shockwave Ace, Shock and Awe Ace. For the gun you'll be using, I highly recommend using an M14 PBR with an auto-clicker macro. I know it's a little bit dishonest, let's say, to be using a macro, but this is primarily just because of how fucking tanky the ghosts are, especially the damn dozers, and as far as I can tell, there's no game rule against auto-clicking, so in general, you're gonna want your team to stick by the gravestones while you're at the front. Just remember to look back at the gravestones every once in a while so you can take the pressure off of your teammates. And a couple things to keep in mind, even if everyone falls down, it's probably not worth it to revive anyone, unironically. Revive time might not seem that long until you realize you would kill like 10 ghosts in the time it takes you to revive. Once again, just strafe around to reduce the chance you get shot, and lastly, if you're going to bag the blue, make sure to clear the area first, or just wait until the assault intermission if everyone's down, especially if you only have the bare minimum skills. Ideally, you shouldn't be the one bagging the blue, however. It does work, but it's way more difficult, and you'll have to rely on your team slightly. Ideally, they'll be the ones to bag the brew, and they'll throw it to you. You'll have to let them know that you can't revive anyone, especially since you don't even have medic haste, but maybe don't mention that. And you'll have to rely on them to revive you a couple of times since you're so fragile, both because of your lack of additional dodge, focus protection, and slow walk speed, which makes it even more of a pain if they don't realize the brew's finished. So, let's say you aren't at the lowest possible level, and instead have 27 more points. You get to fix your mobility and fragility issues by investing in the ghost tree until Run for It Ace. And if you have even more, 3 points gives you focus protection, and acing it gives you 5 more dodge. Very useful. In total, that's 93 skill points, and this does help. Especially since Sprint now becomes a strong defensive option, I recommend picking someone to headshot / bullseye, then running straight back or straight forward in order to have the defense while still having an easier time aiming. Of course, before you start spending your additional skill points on those skills, you should probably be getting...
I pulled up in an all black Benz, Diamonds on my wrist, shawty scream my name, so I signed it on her.
See, the real problem isn't really the fact that you don't have enough dodge, it's the fact that there's windows in between your armor getting shred and you getting a bullseye, and this is usually how you start losing health while clearing the wave out. This is inevitable. This will happen. You're not an A-bot machine, bro. This will happen. In all honesty, what makes the firework loadout viable besides the infinite ammo is the fact that you have enough health to take hits until the bruise in the van. I'd argue tank is the first priority to get after you get the core firework skills. As for acing the skill, you should really only do it after you get ghost traits. But get it before you start thinking of charisma or leader. Or an even better option, that's right, why not spend 6 more points to unlock body expertise and 11 more to ace it out. Although high-tiered mastermind skills might seem tempting, body expertise will be a better option. Med skills like doctor are completely useless, and getting more medkit uses isn't really that useful since you won't have enough time to use a medkit while farming ghosts, and at most you'd only use a medkit once after bagging the brew, but this is optional and the skill doesn't affect whether you can get that one medkit use or not. But body expertise allows you to more easily aim while strafing left and right, and if you get good at this, you literally won't lose more than 200 health while completing the brew, which leaves you enough HP to brute force yourself through the enemy and into the van without relying on luck as much. Although, if you're getting to the point of getting body expertise, you're probably max infamy perks and EXP, in which case you're grinding for cash. Oh, and remember back in the tank playstyle how I mentioned saws and fighter ace? Well, you'd be surprised at how strong the saw is. Hey, I wonder if suit... Yeah, this is honestly more of a meme loadout. Remember the problem where you'd have times in between bullseye activations where you'd take damage? Yeah, imagine that instead of having to only aim your crosshair to a cop's noggin and, hoping that the bullseye cooldown is down. You have to aim at a cop and then run to them. By the time you actually reach the cop, your bullseye cooldown will have probably finished 2 centuries ago. So much time for the cops to shred your HP while you get your next bullseye rebuild. On the bright side though, you don't have to use fireworks, but you'll still have great DPS, so that's cool. I do think that the sawsuit loadout probably has some niche uses that could be fleshed out, but if I ever decide to flesh it out, then I'll talk about it in the next video. I took too long with this video, and I started playing mutations, and there's some new things that I could apply in game. Anyway, alright, for the last skill tree. So, Mastermind. I guess Medic Ace, Apple a Day Ace, and Morale Ace. I wouldn't count on Morale though, gambling is bad. In all seriousness, the greatest strength of the firework loadout build is speedrunning Haunted Forest while giving you great control over the fate of the mission. And it's already ill-advised to be reviving people anyway, so yeah. Now there's 2 main archetypes in Haunted Forest, or maybe like rogues or something, which is DPS and tank. Here's something that you have to keep in mind while playing as these guys. If you're going to use a firework loadout, then you really gotta make sure that the team understands that you cannot revive anyone. Your damage output is just too important to be interrupted by reviving someone. If you're doing well, then you take out so much pressure off your team. The best defense is a firework of offense or something, I don't know. Also, it's important to keep in mind that it's not a dodge loadout, it's a firework loadout. There is no such thing as a dodge loadout in public Haunted Forest lobbies. I know that seems strange because I literally did Soul Collector with a dodge build, but the main problem with dodge loadouts is the fact that they don't have enough DPS, so they have to use a special method to be good. I made heavy use of cop herding in order to make it work by maximizing DPS with Surefire Ace, while keeping myself alive by spamming medkits and manipulating cop AI. You can't shepherd cops when there's 3 other players or 2 other bots that the cops are going to focus down. Plus, who knows what's going to happen to your precious medkits when there's 3 or less strangers in the vicinity. Now, if you're using an armor build and you see someone rocking a firework loadout, especially if they're using an M14 EBR and you hear them auto-clicking, then you should really focus on keeping the others up and running. They should be specialized in killing cops, and because of that, their murder spree is going to be incredible if they don't suck. But if they're fucking around with private loadouts, then they're probably competent, given the fact that they're experimenting with stuff like this. Also, please bag the brew and toss it to the ground immediately. The suits will really appreciate it. So that's it. That's my tutorial for Haunted Forest. I hope you guys learned something